Right, I'm going to try and explain a conversation that I had with our father this morning, because I learned so much, and I just thought I'd have a go at trying to explain this process, how you can communicate with a father and hear his guidance and receive, to say, help. Yeah, like that. Right, so I was praying about something particular, something that's difficult. I have a dynamic with a certain person that I find difficult. So I find that with this person, I tend to behave in a very defensive way because I perceive that they are a little bit unkind or angry, and so there just happens to be this dynamic whereby all my defenses go up, and I talk 10 to the dozen, and I just anything just so that they don't look at me, or or throw any darts, or like this, and I come away from those interactions feeling very like, oh, I don't want to do that again. I don't even want to see this person anymore. It's too difficult. So that's what I was talking to the Father about this morning. I was saying, Father, if there's any way that you could just release me from this association, so that I don't have to deal with this dynamic anymore. It's so painful. It's so difficult. I don't like the way I behave, but I don't know how to do it differently, because it's counterintuitive to be vulnerable with this person, and I'm not going to go into any kind of conflict with them, so I don't know really what to do. So I was asking the Father, Father, could you release me from this association? And pretty well immediately I heard in my spirit, thy will be done. And I also understood it as well. I understood that, okay, it's fair enough that I'm asking for this. So I'm asking, please release me from this association because it's too hard. But if the Father wills something different, if the Father's will is that I endure in this dynamic, then I need to accept it, because ultimately I'm surrendered to His will. Yeah. So I was like, oh, all right then. So that's not quite the answer I was looking for, but I get it. I understand. Okay, so thy will be done. Okay. So let's see if I can try and remember the rest of how it went. So, okay, so I understood. Yeah. Maybe He would will something. And then I kind of imagined the dynamic and the situation. So where I'm defensive and they seem to be angry, and it's very uncomfortable. And really, I have this way of I just talk, blah, 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 blah. And I know that it's a defensive posture. It's just, okay, if I keep talking, you won't talk to me and say something hurtful. It's like, I know it sounds crazy. It sounds crazy, and I don't seem to have very much control over it. It's just what happens. And it's like I don't want to be vulnerable with this person. That's basically what happens. So as I was imagining this scenario, how it always is, and when I walk with the dogs, I go up in the mountains, I tend to get a broader perspective on things. So I was just getting that broader perspective. I was like, yes. So this is how it is, and the reason I'm like this is because they are like that. So I'm defensive because they're angry. And then I was like, oh, hold on a minute. It could be that they're angry because I'm defensive. I was like, wow, it's like this. So I'm defensive because they're angry, but they're angry because I'm defensive. Whoa, okay. So again, in that moment, all my, you could say my accusation of them being angry and difficult melted away. Because I thought, well, maybe the way they are is just the result of the way I am with them. I was like, oh, okay. Right, so I humbled a bit. It took me down a peg or two. I was like, okay, so I have a bit more peace about the situation, just because of these two revelations, that it's the Father's will that is ultimately what matters most, and okay, I'm not blameless in this. That was the other revelation. And then, what was that? How did it go? Because it ended very well, and I felt great peace at the end. You know, it was this that, again, I was saying, well, you know, it's so painful though. You know, this situation's so painful, and I don't really know how to do it differently, you know. And I was saying to the Lord, yeah, you know, if possible, I know your will be done, but if possible, you know, I'd rather not endure this anymore. And immediately I heard in my spirit, Christ suffered. I was like, yes, Christ suffered. And we are to suffer with Christ. Okay. And what he suffered was way beyond anything that I've ever come close to suffering. And he did that for me and for you. And then it just made it a little bit more bearable, the whole situation. And then also just the revelation of what it is to suffer with Christ. So his sufferings were nailed to the cross. And when we go to the cross, then we die to self. So he said, pick up your cross and follow me. So that's not an easy task. It's not like, yeah, you know, now you believe in me, now you're saved, everything's going to be easy from now on. It's not quite like that. So you pick up your cross, your sufferings, you follow him. Yeah. And you suffer with him, because what he did on the cross was our sin was nailed to the cross. Through his death, our sins were forgiven. Our sins were nailed to the cross. So it's hard to explain, but it was just in that moment where I heard in my spirit, but Christ suffered, and I contemplated, you know, not really in words, but just the fullness of it. What happened? You know, what happened when he suffered for us, and how, I think it's in Philippians, we're called to suffer with him. And yet many Christians have suffered enormous persecution. But not only that, just in our daily lives, you know, like in this small dynamic, this small suffering that I'm encountering in my life. So I can suffer with him through this. So even if I don't get what I want, I made my request known to him. Okay, I'd rather not do this. I'd rather just not have to deal with this anymore. But actually, with him, I can endure the suffering, because ultimately, he is the victor. He's already conquered death. He's already conquered suffering. He suffered for us, and he's the victor. He's the King of Kings. He's made it. And when we're with him, then we make it too. It's like we can do it with him. We can do it. So I felt much more sober after this little conversation with the Lord this morning. It's not like I thought, okay, yeah, everything's great now, because there's a possibility I might just have to keep going through this difficult dynamic. But I had this great sense of relief, because it's not just me trying to endure it by myself. I endure it with him. He is with me, and he's already the victor. He's already got the victory. So there will be suffering as we die to self. You know, I'm not completely dead to myself. You know, I've got a long way to go yet. But with Christ, you know, it's possible. It's possible. So I had this courage and this strength, and also this sense of calm about the whole situation. I really don't know if this is helpful in any way, but I really thought I'd just try and have a go at sharing it with you. Just, yeah, what it's like to have this. It's like a dynamic conversation with the Lord, and receive his help, real help. You know, I came back from my walk feeling really good, calm, courageous, sober, and in love with my Lord, in love with my Lord.